So once I started fermenting, I don't think a week has gone by that there's not something out on our counter fermenting. Hey y'all, it's Amy from HarrisHomesteadblog.com, and today I'm going to teach you how to make homemade fermented jalapenos with just jalapenos, salt, and water. Fermented foods are amazing probiotics that you can make at home versus taking a pill or a liquid, and they're a whole lot cheaper and a whole lot more easily digestible on your body. So we've recently grown a love for fermented foods. I've been eating fermented sauerkraut for a while now, but I just started making my own. As you can see, there's some fermenting on the counter. So once I started fermenting, I don't think a week has gone by that there's not something out on our counter fermenting. Right now I have sauerkraut and milk kefir on the counter behind me. So I'm gonna add to this countertop a couple of jars of fermented jalapenos today. When you ferment a food, you're basically just submerging a vegetable in a saltwater brine. We're gonna go ahead and get some water started. So I have a quart of water, 4 cups. I'm gonna begin heating just so when I add my salt, the salt more easily dissolves. The ratio that I usually use for a vegetable submerged brine is 4 cups of water and 2.5 tablespoons of salt. You can easily double this or half this, depending on how many fermented jalapenos you'd like to make. I'm gonna go ahead and add my salt. So while our salt is dissolving, I'll go ahead and start chopping the jalapenos and tell you a little bit about the fermenting tools I'm gonna use. So when you ferment a vegetable, you're essentially keeping the vegetable below a brine so that no mold or bacteria can grow, and all the good bacteria that's already on the vegetable can proliferate and spread throughout your brine. So to keep the vegetable below the brine, I like to use these fermenting weights. I'll link them in the description box below. They will go into my jar. You can see here I have one on my sauerkraut. They'll go into the jar and hold that vegetable under the brine so that it can ferment. You do not have to use these. When I first started fermenting, I just had a Ziploc bag with a few rocks that I placed on top of my fermented vegetable to hold it down. Once I realized that I enjoyed fermenting foods, I invested in these little weights. So I'm gonna go ahead and chop my jalapenos. Okay, you can remove the seeds if you would like. I usually don't. It makes them spicier. So we like to get our jalapenos from our own garden, but our jalapenos are not ready yet. So I did have to buy these at the grocery store. I try to buy organic when possible. So I did wash these before I started chopping. I just didn't wash them in extremely hot water. You want to just use a warm wash so that you don't remove all of that good bacteria that's already on the vegetable. So I'm going to begin slicing the jalapenos now and putting them into a clean mason jar. So I use wide mouth just because that's what my fermentation weights go into. You can use regular mouth. You just won't be able to use this size weight. You could use a rock though. Our saltwater brine is beginning to dissolve. I'm going to remove it and let it cool a bit so that this really hot water does not sterilize and remove all of the good bacteria off my jalapeno slices. We probably will not need all of that water for these 2 mason jars, but that is the ratio I needed for my saltwater brine. It was 2.5 tablespoons of salt to 1 quart, 4 cups of water. And I will have all of that linked in the description box below where you can get a free printable for this, so you don't have to worry about writing anything down. I've also made a free guide that you can find down below to a link to all of our favorite fermented foods that we like to make at our home. It includes this recipe as well as sauerkraut, yogurt, carrots, milk kefir, and I think pickles. So if you're interested in more fermented foods and just want a quick resource, that is linked in the description box below. I think I am gonna need another mason jar and more jalapenos than I thought. So while I finish up, I'll tell you a little bit about the fermentation time for these fermented jalapenos. So as you can see, my sauerkraut is still sitting out. I fermented it 2 days ago, and I'll be leaving it out for about 7 days. That's our taste preference for sauerkraut. Everyone's taste preference is probably going to be different, especially if you're just beginning fermenting. you may want a less fermentation time, and then when you become accustomed to fermented foods, you may want to extend that time. The longer you ferment a food, the more probiotic strains that become present in that vegetable. So the jalapenos, I do about 5 days, but you can taste them after day 3 or 4 and see if they're at your level of sourness. If they're still salty, you'll know that they need some more fermenting time. I'm gonna go ahead and add these to this jar because I would like to keep them packed pretty tightly in the mason jar with the fermenting lid on top. So maybe I can fit these. There is no exact science. You see, I just changed my jar sizes in the middle of this recipe. Fermenting foods is more of a learned skill, more than a recipe that you follow exactly. So we just ran out of jalapenos about 3 days ago, and my husband has been waiting for me to make another batch. Again, you want to leave room for this fermenting lid. When I push this down, I am going to have some water drip over. So if you see here in my sauerkraut, I have a casserole dish on the bottom just to catch any extra brine that leaks out. All right, my brine has cooled enough so that I can pour that saltwater brine over my jalapenos. The fermenting weights are going to hold the jalapenos down. I'm going to press this over my glass casserole dish so that my brine does not get all over the counter. So you just want to press that down, let any brine go ahead and escape so that there's room for you to close the lid. And there we go. That's all it is. All right, I'm going to loosely place the lid on top to allow any gases that are a byproduct of the fermentation process to escape. These are for wide mouth mason jars. I grabbed this in a pinch because I realized that this mason jar was gonna be too small, so my fermenting weights are not gonna fit in that mason jar. So hence the little trick I told you about with the rocks and the Ziploc bag. Here is just a couple of rocks from our backyard that I place in a clean Ziploc bag that I'm gonna use as my fermenting weight. So see, if you don't have these special tools, you can begin your fermenting journey today with rocks in a Ziploc bag. So I'm just gonna press these down. I'm gonna hold over this, press down, let some of that brine escape. You just wanna make sure that your jalapenos are submerged so that no mold or bacteria can grow. Loosely place the lid and leave them on your counter. We leave our jalapenos out for about 5 days. That's our preferred level of sourness. If you're new to fermenting, I would probably recommend tasting this after day 3 or 4 and just see if they're at your level of sourness. If they're still salty, you know they need to ferment a little bit longer. I hope I've encouraged you and shown you how easy it is to begin fermenting vegetables. It is such a healthy way to get your daily probiotics for almost free. I mean, jalapenos are not expensive, and then I just use salt and water. So if you haven't already experimented with fermenting, I would just encourage you to pick one vegetable to try. If you love spicy foods, start with jalapenos. They are delicious. Be encouraged that this is not a difficult process. Don't be intimidated by it. I hope I've encouraged you to just try today. Don't forget to check out the description box below if you'd like that free guide on beginning your fermenting journey. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel where I post 2 new videos each week on our homegrown lifestyle at our Wholesome Homestead. Thank y'all for stopping by.